Right. There's two teams that we're going to have to talk a little bit more in detail about, and I think that I was hoping we can they seem like management topics, so I was hoping that we could perhaps kind of lead those into the next, we have a management meeting afterwards, and those are Mia and Vinny, and then Aubrey and Blake and Matt. So with that in mind, I think let's start with, we've got Nick and Jack at the top there. How are you guys doing?
Hey, sorry. That always
No,
happens.
Go ahead.
So we heard back from Caroline. I'm trying to see if she's in this meeting. But we heard back from Caroline regarding her SME review, and that there's some issues in the SME, has some suggestions
Okay.
to go, because apparently the SME said that our form is old, it's from 2012, and that they rarely use it anymore. And the SME said that she had some suggestions on making a new form, and Caroline was talking to David about whether or not that's okay and what to go do forward. And that's we're in this kind of limbo right now. We have set up a meeting with Caroline and the SME, I believe, on Wednesday to talk about that and talk about steps forward. But that's where we are right now.
You're kind of on a holding pattern because we need to figure something else out, right?
So remind me, so you're using this is the motion to dismiss?
Yeah, the CRA.
Yeah.
Okay,
I just think it's funny that they said no one uses it. It's the thing the court asked for.
Well, we're having the same issue, David, with Aubrey and Matt and Blake, but we'll go into that after we finished with Jack and Nick. So right now, you're meeting with Caroline in the SME on Wednesday. I know that Quentin put a call out for assistance with the affidavit of care, with reviewing that.
I think unless you want to do it, Katie Milton has been intensely working on the affidavit of care with me for about 6 months until we started this project. So she's really familiar with it. She's thought through all these issues. If you want, do you want her to have a?
Sure.
Where are you? Yeah. Do you want to have her have a look at it?
That sounds good. Yeah. And I think our goal is to just get something to the court, but one that doesn't have typos, but not like, obviously we could change it a lot.
Sure.
I'm sure. But.
So Quentin identified typos, proofreading, major errors, and it should not be by him. So I was hoping that we could get a couple of eyes on this. Quentin, I'm not sure how many people you were looking at, because I know Mia will probably be free this afternoon, depending on how we go. Or at least you might have an hour or two, Mia, right?
Yep, she's muted.
She's muted. Mia, you're muted if you're trying to speak.
Oh, what was the question? Sorry, I was...
Whether you would want an assistant just taking a look at the affidavit of care and looking for, just proofreading it, looking for typos, looking for any errors.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Did you want Katie to look at it as an SME? Do you need SME review for it? I'm sorry, it may have misunderstood the question.
I think both stages could be helpful. So I think right now it's pretty finalized to get another form to the court for them to look at as an MVP.
Right. But I mean, what I'm wondering is if you need SME because you've already done it in 209A with Kate.
Right.
So maybe you don't need SME, and maybe I just misunderstood the question.
I wasn't actively looking for SME. I don't think that it's necessarily like it can't be improved at all. But mostly I just want another person to check typos.
Okay, so it doesn't sound to me like you need anybody to do, you don't need a family lawyer to look at it with you.
I don't think so, unless
Kate's
we're
already done that.
Actual substantive errors. But yeah, Kate's done that already.
Yeah. Likely. Okay. Sorry about that. That's what happens when you come in late. Sorry.
No worries. Okay. So Mia, we'll talk about that later. But right now we're talking about Nick and Jack, and they're kind of in a holding pattern, waiting on the SME, to figure out what to do with their form. So I was thinking that maybe.
So the thing about them, I think, and I've proposed this a couple times, but also is okay with David and you, I think they're going to need to do, the best thing to do is to do a DocX. So they could be working on that. And then have it available so that when they meet with Nicole on Wednesday, they can because you've already got the interview. So if you can get a docx to pull those files in, and then I suspect from what Nicole said, it may just be some language. We may have to change the order of the affidavit of service, or change the language. So there may be a little bit of adjusting there, but I mean, you've done the bulk of the work. And if you can do a Word template that makes it more flexible, then you should be more prepared to meet with her on Wednesday if you can do that.
Yeah, my only concern is what was if the nature of the form was one that I know that it sounds like the court doesn't use this often, but this is the form they asked for.
Well, when I talked, it was great because when I talked to Katie, I just got off the phone with her this morning, and she was saying she's actually witnessed a few of these in court. So she still has to do a lot of research because she hasn't ever done one, but she's looked at, why she's seen them happen. And so I thought that was helpful because other people don't even use them or have seen them or know anything about them. So I thought that was pretty helpful. And right now I started some suggestions, but she's working on a Google Doc. She's going to put all of the suggestions in one place, and then she will she's offered to meet with Nick and Jack. Is Blake working with Nick and no, Blake's working with Aubrey, right? Yeah. So she's offered to meet with Nick and Jack when she feels confident that she's got all her issues together, and then she can meet with you guys to go over it.
I think the question is, will the court accept the docx because they've actually asked for a PDF?
They'll get a PDF. They'll get a PDF.
Yeah, the question is just
no,
about
but I mean the PDF
form
that they requested.
This is what everybody I talked to already about this says, is that I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be fine from what Katie said.
And we'll put it by the court in the end.
We're talking about CRA. We're talking about CRA. Which one are we talking about?
CRA.
CRA, yeah. No, I've talked to quite a few people who do CRAs, and they're saying it's really informal. You can do whatever you want, blah, 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 blah. So I think we're good with that. And they can make it look, it's really just the affidavit of service. And also that form is from 2012, and people use different ones all the time. Several CRA attorneys inform me of that. So I think we're good with that.
Okay. So this is the motion to dismiss an application for a CRA. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll make it into a Word. We'll replicate the PDF into Word.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we can send it to the court as a PDF, but this way, if it's a Word, then you can modify the affidavit of service, because people aren't even, from what Nicole said and the other person I talked to at Children's Law Center, they're not even using this form anymore. But it's the only form they have.
It's funny because the court asked for it.
Right. Well, no, so they're asking for.
Yes, they want a motion to.
Yeah, a motion to dismiss, and this is the form they have. So yeah.
Okay, so the action point for Nick and Jack is to make a docx out of the form, and then to send that to Caroline.
If you can get a docx to work with your YAML, you've got today and tomorrow to get it to work. If it's working, that's good. And then as long as you either put it on GitHub or share it with me, and then we can go through it. So it's working. I think when we go through it with Nicole, then she needs to see how it goes, and then she can suggest ways to modify either the questions or the text in the Word doc. You see what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. Nick and Jack, do you understand?
Yeah, we can. We haven't done a docx yet, but it'd be good practice for Wednesday.
So I know that for a fact, Mike and Tyler and Sinead and Finola have been working on docx. So if you have any questions, you can put it in the code channel and tag them as well, because they might be able to assist you if Quentin and Michelle aren't available.
And Teaching Tuesday, one of them was the docx one, right? I believe like the third Teaching Tuesday.
Right. So, try your best there, and then, okay, yeah, Nick?
Who are the people that have experience with docx that I can tag, just so I...
Sinead and Finola.
Okay, Sinead.
And Mike and Tyler.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's it for now. But, anybody can jump on and help, but I just know that, for example, that they have had specific experience with it. Okay, so then the next team is Sinead and Finola. How are you guys doing?
Our code is done, like actually done, and like I don't think we need to do anything else to it. And then we have our scenarios done, so I'd say we're ready to start testing.
Right. So the test case template is the next thing to do, right?
I think we have that. I don't really. When you mean the test case template, do you mean like all the possible scenarios that we can have, or?
No. The next thing to do is to like basically write out a test case, and I'm not going to explain it now, but I will go into it on another call. Mia and Vinny have successfully done it, and now they're in the process of actually making test cases based on those scenarios. So I'm hoping to enlist them and to enlist Chandler in assisting. I just want to figure out who all is at that stage, and then we'll go from there. Okay, guys. Congratulations, though. That's really good news.
Thank you.
Okay, Eleni, James, and Jason. I think you might be in the same place as Finola and Sinead.
Yeah, pretty much. We're also just working on our scenarios and just trying to finish that out.
It looked like you guys had quite a lot from when I reviewed them. How many more do you think you need?
Not a lot more. There's just a few more that we should add, but like you said, we didn't want to do like 20 and then find out that
no, of course, I agree. Keep checking in. It's good. It's good to keep checking in. I think that it looks good from what I've seen. And also, if we figure out that we need more scenarios, you can always add them at a later stage. So I would say that I'm confident that you guys are in the same place as Sinead and Finola, which is that you are ready to create test case template, which basically sets out all the intricate steps of writing the test. So I just want to gather who else is ready for that. I feel like Anvita might be ready for that tomorrow. Anvita, I've reviewed your test case scenarios template, and it looks really good. So the next step for you is to go and create inputs and to create scenarios. Maybe just do 2 scenarios, and then I'll check it for you. Is that all right?
Yeah. I think you mean implement 2 scenarios, right? Because the scenarios have been created.
No, they haven't. Yeah, like from the test case template.
So yeah, to implement 2 of the scenarios as test cases?
No. Anvita has done the test case scenarios. She's done a template, and I reviewed that for her, and it looks really good. I think that you've got all the options there.
Got it.
The next step is to create the inputs, and just a reminder how you do that is you look at the actual form itself, you look at all the text boxes that you could possibly have, and you ensure that you have inputs for all of those. And then the next step after that is to write scenarios based off of that test case template, the scenario template. If you're confused, we can go offline, and I will help you figure that out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Right.
I was like a little confused.
No worries. It's a lot. There's a lot of words. Okay, so I will help you with that offline. But the test case, the scenario template looks fantastic, and I think you've covered all the options there, so you're off to a good start.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and then we've got Mia and Vinny. As I said, they've gotten to the point where they've created some test cases. They've also done a really good job with the test case template, which, as I said, sets out all the steps you'll have to do, like tap this box or put this input in and stuff. And they've improved the process a little bit so that when you guys come along, it'll hopefully be a bit smoother. And that's what Sinead, Finola, Eleni, James, and Jason will be on after this call, I think. So where they're at now is we just have a few questions that I think I wanted to ask kind of at the beginning of management meeting, because it's more along the lines of it's more in depth, and if it's not the right place to ask it, then we can always jump off and have another call after that. Just to do with the flow of the interview and stuff like that, or the flow of the general flow. And I think Michelle mentioned something about that as well, downloading stuff. Yeah, okay. So we're gonna, when we finish with the stand-up, hopefully soon, then we can launch into that. The other team that needs a bit more attention is Aubrey and Matt and Blake. So we did some work last week on getting the interview, improving the readability, and it looks really, really good. And then we did some research online, because obviously this is the form that has a lack of SME. We did some research online, we sent it to Caroline, and then while I was closing my tabs, I realized there was a lot of questions that I had about the form. So I said to Aubrey, like, maybe it would be a good idea just to call the court and pretend like you were getting married and you needed without delay. And Aubrey did that. And then maybe Aubrey, you can take over and explain what happened.
Sure. Yes, I called the court and pretended I needed to get married, and they basically shut me down. You have to have an appointment to go into the court to file your intention to marriage form. That's not what it's called, but they're
intention to marry.
You intention to marry form, and they're filled through the end of this month, and they're not posting August until like the beginning of next week. And then I was like, well, I made up like a story about why I did it now. And she was like, no, that form doesn't do anything right now, because the marriage without delay form, which is what we've created the interview for, is to then get in front of a judge that day and do a hearing. And she was like, I'm not doing those hearings. And I was like, but even if it's an emergency? And she's like, no.
They literally are under their own standing order.
Yeah.
They wrote that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't expect the court to know what the court is doing.
Right.
So it's unreasonable to expect that without a tool like our tool, that they actually know what is in their standing order. Unfortunately,
it's just it's very confusing, and it's led to a lot of confusion in the team and what we're supposed to do. Because I was on the Boston.gov website and the Mass.gov website, and there's a lot of information there about fees and what
all those fees are waived and everything for the emergency. So right now we just need to get that form that exists there and get something that fills into that form. We'll put that in front of the court. The court will say yay or nay, and if they say yay, we put it up, and then they'll work with it. So I mean, their standing order does say.
Is there something that we can put on the cover sheet that says as per standing order, whatever?
No, they'll know by the time we get. So the problem is, unfortunately, the court does not have very good internal communications mechanisms, and
around the world, not just.
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking that instead of assuming that they would get the information, if we
by the time we got to the point where we were submitting to the court, it would be taken care of. Or at least it wouldn't be our problem.
Right. So
they'll explicitly have approved our form again. So it's like another check. They gave us the list up front. Then they're going to have to approve every form that we enable sending to the court directly.
Right. Because it's going to go by the court. The court has to approve the form before they accept it, right? So at some point it'll go through there. So I'm sorry, this was the one I started talking about when I came late. So I do think it would be helpful. It's MVP, but also so that people know what they need. So when they file this thing, they also can be getting proof of their birth. There's certain things they need to when they get the license.
Yeah.
The license. So
but
that's
what I understood it was that.
Pardon?
Sorry, the way I understood it was you actually have to email the court and say, I want to make an appointment with the city hall or something. I want to make an appointment to get.
It's not the court. It's their town clerk. Yeah.
So you email them, and then they email you the marriage, like a form that you have to complete.
Yeah.
You call them, and then they email you like a marriage without.
Intention. It's an intention of marriage, right?
And you basically give them like your inner leg measurements, everything. You give them so much information. You pay $50, and then they give you an appointment. And when you email them back, you say, "I need this marriage without delay," and then they tell you which court to go to, and then you file that at the court.
Okay, so I don't.
And you pay $195 for that.
Right. So according to the statute, and this is what Katie's researching, you don't need the intention of marriage before. The intention of marriage is actually the license application.
Yeah.
So you need this before you can submit it. But I'm saying this is Katie's the SME, so let's let her deal with that. She's got the Google Doc. She's doing it today, and she can meet with
Aubrey, Blake, Matt.
Yeah. Right. So she's on it. And so I don't think we need to worry about it. But I do think there's certain things that people ought to know before they even start this interview so that they have time to get the stuff together. Because what's the point? They fill this thing in, they file it, and then they don't have their birth certificate or they don't have their passport or whatever. So I think that it's not helpful to have them just let them submit it and fail.
I think that's appropriate.
Yeah, but
So-
I think we're good with this right now
Yeah.
because I think we just handed it over to Katie. She's doing the legal research and everything, and I started working on the plain language. I would make a few suggestions, but they're minimal, so
Really,
I can show you.
I'm glad because we worked really hard on
I
that.
know
and
you did. I know it shows, but they're just little things like ask is a much shorter, easier word to read than request.
that can be your readability test today. Your readability tip.
There's just there were just a few little things.
Okay,
And
good.
then-
I'm glad. Well, yeah, we did puzzle over a lot of those things.
Yeah.
Specifically, and I don't know. Maybe now we've covered everybody's action points. The next thing to do is to figure out the test case template. But I just wanted to. Yeah, Michelle.
So I'm working on some finishing work for the motion to modify, and I'm gonna need an SME on that at some point. I'm not sure who the person
Family
is.
law.
What motion to modify?
Plaintiff's motion to modify.
209A?
The 209A?
Yeah.
I can do that.
Okay.
Good. So maybe what I wanted to do is I wanted to actually just talk about the test case template quickly and then discuss one of the issues that we had or one of the questions we had about the marriage without delay form. And then obviously we can go into Mia and Vinny's thing, and obviously not everybody's obliged to stay on for that. And then we transition into the management meeting. So the test case template, as I said, Mia and Vinny had done a lot of the kind of testing of the test case template. We've improved it somewhat since we started, and now the people who will be moving on to that will be Sinead, Finola, Eleni, James, and Jason. And I'm thinking, I've already said Mia can help with the affidavit of care. What about if Aubrey, Matt, and Blake have a look at that, and Mia can help us taking on the test case? Would that be okay? Because Aubrey, Matt, and Blake will be kind of they're in a holding pattern because we're waiting for that Katie to get back to us on that SME review, and Caroline to get back on the language. So perhaps Aubrey, Matt, and Blake can have a look at the affidavit of care, for just proofread it, have a look at if there's anything you would change, typos, all that kind of stuff, and then Mia can help me go through the test case template with those two teams. How does that sound? And Mia's happy. So I'm free from 2. I know Aubrey and them are free from 2:30. So maybe what we'll do is we'll make sure that you guys get a link, Aubrey, Matt, and Blake, and you can have a look at that today and see if there's anything you pick up. And you can just report back to Quentin, probably on that thread. Quentin, is that okay?
Yep, that works great.
So the thread is I'll just tag you guys where it is. And then what's the well, what I'll do is I'll start a DM with all of the people who will be moving on to test case templates, and we will find a time that will suit everybody, or at least most people. And then we will record it if everybody can't be there. Tyler and Mike, where are you guys? Where are you guys at? We're even wearing matching. You, me, and David are matching today.
We're pretty much in the same place right now. I'm doing some final edits on the code because there's a few things that I need to edit from like the basic questions that don't really exactly fit in this interview. So I need to do that. But Tyler, I spoke to him briefly this weekend. He's like pretty busy right now. I know he's working on the test case template. But yeah, well, I'll make sure that he pays attention to what you're doing with like all the scenarios and gets himself sorted on that end.
Okay. And we can include you guys into our test case template call as well, because it sounds like you're almost there and it'll be a bit of a waste of time to do it twice.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I'm so sorry that I forgot about you there. Okay, so that's all for Standup today. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was Mia and Vinny, and that's specifically with the management team. So I'm not sure if you guys want to stick around. I don't think it's that important, and maybe we can sign off for today and we can transition over to management meeting. Except for
Transitioning recording.